statements. The opposition is very concerned about the popularity of Proposition 37. They don't want to label this food. One GMO brand company executive said years ago that labeling genetically engineered food would be like putting a skull and crossbones on it. So far, the opposition has raised over $40 million for a misinformation campaign, trying to scare and confuse people into thinking labeling will be expensive or unfair. They are using fear, uncertainty, and doubt to try to persuade you. Let's let the facts speak for themselves. What does Proposition 37 really say? The full text is available in the Voter Handbook or online. The key points are that raw GMO agricultural commodities for retail sale must be labeled genetically engineered. Processed foods for general public purchase, which contain GMOs, must be labeled saying, may be partially produced with genetic engineering or partially produced with genetic engineering. And these products will not be allowed to be labeled as natural anymore because this is misleading. The opposition claims that the exemptions in this law would be for special interests. There are some reasonable exemptions in the law, that is true. Since California law allows only one topic per initiative, GMO salmon species like GMO corn and other GMO crops would be labeled. But there are currently no genetically engineered cow or chicken species. They just eat GMO feed. So dairy, beef, and eggs would not be required to be labeled. The state would consider that too broad for the same initiative. Pet food, however, has GMO corn and soy fillers in it, so it must be labeled. Restaurants don't commonly label the food they serve, and alcohol is not normally labeled and is regulated by federal law. The opposition is claiming that these are, quote, special interest exemptions. But these types of exemptions are logical and fair. Consumers Union endorses Proposition 37 because it protects all consumers' interests. Since when is the general public a special interest? The opposition also misleads by stating that this measure was written for the benefit of trial lawyers. This campaign actually began with the efforts of Pam Larry, a grandma and former midwife, who organized volunteers across the state, including me, toward the ballot drive with only one goal in mind, to let consumers know if our food contains GMOs. You can hear her on YouTube. The initiative itself was written by a group of food industry, science, farm, and health experts. One intention was to make the law practical, inexpensive, and easy to follow. Indeed, there are thousands of retailers and farmers who endorse this campaign. In addition, the leading businesses in the natural and sustainable food sector and the leading labor groups such as United Farm Workers, United Food and Commercial Workers, and the California Labor Federation are all saying yes on 37. Plus, the Los Angeles City Council voted unanimously to support Proposition 37. The opposition's claims about shakedown lawsuits are also false. The initiative provides no economic incentives for lawyers to sue. Any penalties from a violation go only to the state, not the plaintiff. Consumers can't file a class action lawsuit without first giving notice, and if the defendant fixes the labels, no class action is permitted. Retailers can ask suppliers for a sworn statement or stick a simple label on produce bins. GMO labeling won't be costly to consumers. The opposition has paid for reports that claim consumers will have to pay more for groceries if GMOs must be labeled. And this is an understandable concern for us all. But those with actual knowledge disagree. For example, according to David Byrne, the former Commissioner for Health and Consumer Protection for the European Union, GMO labeling in Europe, quote, did not result in increased costs despite the horrifying double-digit prediction of some interest, unquote. Remember, we didn't pay more for trans fat or allergen labeling. companies have 18 months to update their labels, which is longer than the normal frequency of changing labels. There are legitimate studies that confirm that Proposition 37 won't be costly, and it functions in a different way than Proposition 65, which was what people are comparing it to. Proposition 37 is self-enforced and requires no new bureaucracy. The state official analyst has said any cost for enforcement would range from 1 to 3 cents per year for each Californian. Look at the voter booklet. Proposition 37 does not ban GMOs or force food companies to use other ingredients. But if farmers and food companies find demand for GMOs drops, they will sell us other products. That's the nature of a free market economy. GMO food manufacturers worry that we will not want to buy their product, just like consumers turned against pink slime in beef when they found out about it. And then the question arises, whom do you trust with your health? Our campaign is grassroots, made up of moms, dads, grandmas, and average consumers like me who care about their health. We have a very long list and a broad spectrum of endorsements, including health professionals such as the California Nurses Association and the American Public Health Association. Dr. Oz supports GMO labeling. But the opposition is spending $1 million a day on their information or misinformation campaign to get us to opt out of knowing what is in our food. When you hear the scare stories about Proposition 37, remember who is behind them. Monsanto, Dow, and DuPont covered up the dangers and DDT of Agent Orange, and the opposition's expert, Henry Miller, who is in their ads and their voter booklet, has been an advocate for DDT, Philip Morris, and has suggested that the victims of the Fukushima, Japan disaster who experienced low levels of radiation, quote, could have actually benefited from it, unquote. It should not be up to these folks to decide what you and I get to know what we eat and drink. We must stand up for ourselves and for our families, our health, and our future. Proposition 37 is in our best interest, individually and as a community. Please join me in supporting the right to know and vote yes on Proposition 37. Please visit the CA Right to Know website for more information, and you can see the video description attached for source references for what I mentioned in this message. Thank you so much for your consideration and support, and I hope you will help us spread the word. Thank you.